have essentially four versions of stickball. Um, there's the version that they play in North Carolina, that the eastern folks play over there, and some western Oklahoma and Cherokees have played it as well. Um, that version is probably the roughest. It's it it's changed as well for them. It's not exactly the way our ancestors played it. Nowadays, they allow the players, once they've picked up the ball, to take it in their hand, which is pretty unheard of in Oklahoma. But it's still a rough game. They do have some ceremonial aspects to it, but for the most part, it's a social gathering, social event that happens at their fair. The Mississippi Choctaws version is now made its way into Oklahoma. The Oklahoma Choctaws play it, and the Oklahoma Cherokees play it. That version is new to Oklahoma Cherokees. We stopped playing our Eastern version, or our man-to-man ball game, in Peavine, Oklahoma in 1911. Was the last time that somebody played that version. So we lost our man-to-man game here in Oklahoma for Cherokees anyways for a little while. But we regained it in another form, and that's the Choctaw version. That's the way that most people are taking it up nowadays. These are a variation of the kinds of sticks that we had a long time ago. We didn't have a set style. The individual created their own sticks. They went out into the woods and they cut a tree and they cut out their staves and they made their own. These days, a lot of people will just buy sticks from makers, people that make sticks. So they end up with a sort of a standard. But we didn't really have a standard. We would make them based upon what we needed them for. And sometimes even that included different positions on the ball field. So they would take, if I had a pair of sticks like this, you see they're long and slender, and they have a smaller cup. In most cases, if you saw a player with these, you would probably think that a long time ago, you would probably think that he was really quick. He's probably moved the ball up and down the field very fast, and he would use his sticks to throw and catch and all of that kind of stuff. This guy was probably athletic and lean, but we had a variation from here to much broader cups. And one thing that we did do a long time ago is we had double handles. This is kind of indicative of what they were like. Now the cups could be smaller and skinnier and thinner and all that kind of stuff, but the handles in general, the majority of the people a long time ago used a double handle like that. It made the ball stick sturdier and stronger, as you use that to sometimes hold your opponents and to hold them down, to choke them, to do whatever you wanted to do. Their version of standard, or their standard for ball sticks now, exists kind of like this. These are made by Jerry Wolf. He's probably the most prominent Cherokee elder over there as far as stickball is concerned. He's a fluent speaker as well.
Hickory is the only timber that will bend and not break. Like right here. Now if you cut a poplar tree and try to make sticks from a poplar tree and you bend it just a little bit, it'll break in two. And any other timber will do likewise. But you got to know how to cut these down, the thickness of so, and then you take maybe a round pole, and you pull them around. Maybe you had a vise or something, and you clamped them together. And of course, you got to do a lot of work. There's a lot of work done to this, and there's no commercial materials in this. They're all some kind of leather, and the nails are wooden nails, wooden pegs, see, to hold them together. And also, these markings have a meaning also. They mean that the meaning is they've been through a ritual, maybe taken to the river, to the water, and doctored. So they'll make good sticks, and you will not miss the ball. When you go after that ball, you won't miss it. That ball will just come right up to the sticks, and you're gone with it. For a few minutes, you're gone, and then your body slams somewhere along the way.
I think that the reason that it changed, it did change in a couple of different ways. Um, One of the reasons is because here in Oklahoma the trees aren't as tall and straight as they are in the east. Chilakaweti, their hickory trees are taller and straighter, and you can get it's easier to get a long straight stave out of those. So I think that the reason that they changed the style here in Oklahoma, one of the reasons is because you could get more staves out of a tree or a log that you've cut if it's a shorter stick and you just bend it to that point and then it kind of cuts off. Whereas this one will be much longer than this one if it's stretched out straight. Also, I think that another thing that caused change in the tradition of the ball sticks and different styles of ball sticks is because you only had a few people making sticks. So those people just barely hung on to those things, and then they passed them on to somebody, and they passed them on to somebody, and then those things spread. And so it dwindled down to a couple of ball stick makers that were making them just the way they liked to make them, which was, whatever style. And then that became the standard because everybody started learning off of them. And so everybody learned that style, and then they taught someone, and so on and so forth. So the fact that we almost lost all of our ceremonies and everything else is probably the reason behind some of the change, because we dwindled to one little standard. And then so in North Carolina, this is their standard, that there were just a few ball stick makers making sticks, and they made them like this. And in Oklahoma, that's the same thing. So those are a couple of reasons that the ball sticks changed. Traditionally, it would have been a hickory nut or a rock on the inside, wrapped with deer hair off of a deer skin, and then the deer skin would then also be used to make the outside of it stitched up. And there's different variations of it, but I made this one, so I actually do know what's on it. It's got a rock and yarn. It's wrapped with yarn on the inside. As it's changed for Cherokees in North Carolina, it's also changed for Choctaws in Mississippi or Choctaws in Oklahoma. But we ended up starting to use different kinds of sticks. Now these are Oklahoma Cherokee sticks, but young men nowadays a lot of times are opting for these Choctaw style sticks, and it's understandably so, because these sticks are really good for throwing and catching. They have a square handle, so they lay flat against each other, and they usually have one cup that's smaller than the other, so it fits down inside the other one, and they bevel in quite a bit and create a pretty interesting scissor. So whenever you need to catch or throw the ball, you don't have to worry about whether you're connecting in the right spot. You just lay it on top of each other and scissor it together, and it makes it easier to throw and catch. The Creeks Muskogee people are Seminole and Muskogee Creek people their sticks have changed as well over time, I think. This is what you would be indicative of a Creek man-to-man ball stick. You can see that they have a heavy shoulder on them that's similar to the Eastern Cherokee style, whereas it looks like they would, if you were to compare them and you just cut this off right here, it would be almost exact same, just one-sided. But these are really heavy, and the reason being is because they like to come over the top of a bunch of guys and hit everyone's sticks and knock them out of their hands in order to get the ball. If that means you're in the way, then you're in the way. And so it's still a really rough game, but it's played ceremonially. They do it with a great amount of respect and honor, and they've maintained it as close to it could possibly be. Cherokees and Creeks, the ball game for us at one time was so similar that we played intertribal ball games all the time against each other. Cherokees and Choctaws have both changed the game a lot, whereas the Creeks have maintained it as close to the way our ancestors played a long time ago. It'd be nice if we could all get it all back the way it was, but I think that that's a difficult thing whenever culture, in order for a culture to survive, sometimes it has to grow and it has to change.